Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 150, October 28, 2022, Medical Intuitive Practices in Getting Answers and Insights into Your Healing, Your Fertility. Are you done with the struggling to conceive? Does your body feel like it works against you? What healing methods can support you? What do you need? I want to say celebration, episode 150. Unbelievable. I just remember a year or two ago, 2 years ago maybe, I can't even remember the time right now, but I celebrated my 100th episode. And it's up on my YouTube channel, and I had a special guest in Fertility that were, let me see, who was on that show? They were, I believe the majority of them were my mentor, Spirit Baby Intuitive students who are already doing deep work in the field of conception and pregnancy and birth loss healing. And it was a big party and celebration. Of course, for 150, I wanted to do some celebration, but maybe I will postpone the celebration for now and share it on Instagram live or YouTube live feed. And of course, my Instagram is at Spirit Baby Medium, just like it sounds. No extra S's, no extra I's, no extra letters. Those are the scammers. Those are not me. Always look at my bio link, and it says in my Instagram profile, in stars, fake accounts ask for readings. And so keeping that in mind, deeper advertisement right now, a lot of people are going through major scams, and I'm hoping that you trust your heart and intuition and not get scammed. And again, I welcome you to this episode. And so what are we talking about here today? Medical intuitive practices. I feel like a redefinition or a update on what does that mean. And I believe I've done past episodes quite some time ago when I started really digging deep into the medical intuitive energies. And really, I want to kind of get a little basic, but also a little deep. What does that even mean? And so in one of my most common sessions, I would say my most popular session is Soul Baby Communication, Medical Intuitive Session. And what does that mean? What do you get for 80 minutes, right? It's like, whoa, 80 minutes, and sometimes longer. It's a very unique experience for people, and I feel like I meet the frequency of where you are at, and there is a bit of an outline that I use. I have a paper, and I explain how this works in my private space, and it has a picture of a body, a cutout of a woman's body, like a silhouette. And I like to ask an intentional energy. I like to look at certain parts of the body. So I start with the crown. I love looking at that psychic eye space to see where the inner spiritual gifts are, auditory processor, kinesthetic, empath, visual, psychic space, and I could see it. I see it. And that's really helpful for your spirit baby relationship and yourself on that conception journey. I like to look at maybe thyroid health if it needs to come up, heart space, down into the belly space, digestion, solar plexus, sacral, of course, the womb energy. Like to look at the uterus, the ovaries, and see what energies want to be called at me, as well as the legs sometimes, and the knees and the feet. And things just pop up through my process. Sometimes I get words of different sicknesses and issues, and sometimes they're just denser energies. And there's a lot of different things that come up for people, sometimes more ancestral, in the past lives, current things in diet and digestion, or, different medical stuff may come up and be more revealing. And my thing is, I really like to not just look at, okay, great, whatever, you have a liver thing, you have a digestion thing, and it's not about blaming you for having deficiencies, right? I feel like we're living in a very deficient world. And we are these light-bodied beings that have history, that are carrying loads of stuff. Sometimes not even our own genetic, or what I call energetic lineages, carrying those through into the eggs, into the sperm. And it's a lot to unwind, to be present with. And this is where I feel like the present time energy of where people are at is important. It's like, what are you doing today to really be in love with yourself, to be in love with life? And in that, then you step into, oh, let me move into conception. Let me move into pregnancy. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It really does not. But these things we need to challenge ourselves with are very powerful. You may have grown up in a culture where maybe there wasn't a lot of self-love. Maybe that was selfish. Or maybe you grew up in a culture where you were loved a lot and you really felt that. You really felt grounded into that. And so wherever your journey is, where you take it in the present time, of course, is highly valuable. And it's changing. I feel like we're always changing. And I know I can speak from my own healing journey. I've changed a lot. I've done a lot of different holistic things in over 20 years. And I needed to do different things at different times. As my own frequency and my own consciousness accelerate, I don't need the other things anymore the way I did. And that's the beauty. I love that. It's like meeting relationships with other people, of other light force, of other galactic energy, and having that beautiful, loving exchange of healing, and then moving into where the next, where do you land next on the journey? It's like, do I need to do all this stuff? Do I need to, poke and prod and, force and push, or do I need to just take breaks and just see, what's working for me? Where's my rhythm? And that, again, it's always changing. And some things may be consistent. You may love certain things that are coming up and that support your lifestyle. And there's no shame in that, and there's no judgment in that. It's where you're kind of tuned in. And I feel like when I'm working through in this soul baby communication medical intuitive session, that's how that works. It's like, you're not a cookie cutter person. There's no stamp of you. You are a unique thumbprint. You are a unique energy, and it's up to you to remember that and to activate that and to know that you are on a mission. You are awakening. You're awakening into the journey of motherhood, of parenthood, and so much more of awakening than just even that you are offering yourself to be a vessel and a guardian to these other light beings. And just even sitting with that for a moment and being in reflection, that you are in a co-creative field that's so much deeper than your physical body, that you are offering to be of service in this way, heart to heart. And so kind of going off into talking about sessions into the medical intuitive and what it is, I do want to define that a little bit more, because there can be a lot of confusion. What does that mean, medical intuitive? And of course, Dr. Norm Shealy and Carolyn Mace, they're really the creators of medical intuition. They put it on the map of reality, we'll say. They created this connection and awareness with it. And people know that Carolyn Mace, she doesn't do medical intuitive sessions anymore, and I think it's been a very long time since she has. And she's very much a symbolic reader, and her accuracy is really high. And it's like, I think it's over like 90%. And she would work with really challenging medical issues, as well as, just basic whatever supporting people. And now she does a lot of other work, I think, in more collections and groups, and speaks a lot. And some people feel like she could be very intense in the way she delivers, but I think she has a perfect frequency for what she's bringing to people, and there's no bullshit attached to how she brings that through. And so it could be, I encourage you to look her up and see what is she about and what is that energy and what does she bring. And I feel like she wants to bring the energy of God and love and healing to people, even that she's been doing this for so long. And I'm not too linked into where she's at now with her work, but she, I feel like she's the godmother and the godfather, we'll say Dr. Norm Shealy, or who put medical intuition, again, into existence. And there was even a I believe, an organization that worked with supporting medical intuitives and testing and stuff like that, because there really is no testing, and I'll talk about that too as well. So medical intuition is somebody that really has psychic abilities, is how I would define it, whether it's clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizance, and all the other different clairs meshed into there, whether it's one or the other, and you're using that in that space of listening to someone's body, their body chemistry, intuitively, psychically, tuning in to the physiological structure, the emotional structure, the intellectual structure, and I would say in that is the energetic spiritual structure. And that's how I do it. I look into all the bodies of being, and there's a lot. Just so you know, you have a lot of stuff going on, and it can be quite challenging to like pinpoint, bring the energy down, because when I'm working with someone on the reproductive medical intuitive journey, it's more reproductive feminine energy, male energy. I do see other things like, oh, this person wears glasses, or they have a tooth issue, or there's tension in their body, which may be relevant, may be irrelevant. I have to really sift through the energy of people to know, oh, like, do I talk about this? What does this mean? Is this important? What is this? Is this more emotional? Is this more physiological that became highly emotional at a younger age, that became a thing, like autoimmune disorders and disease, which I will do a whole episode on that topic, probably maybe next. And so medical intuition, you do not have to be a medical professional. I know that there's a book called Diaries of a Medical Intuitive, and it's about a nurse. It's a great read. It's very similar to taking a lot of philosophies of medical intuition. That's how I read it, from other medical intuitive philosophies. But she says that she believes that you have to be a medical professional, which is really untrue, because most medical intuitives are self-taught. It's a natural kind of gift and connection. Some call it a gift. But it's just a natural connection to knowing and seeing things that are beyond this reality. And so you can be a medical intuitive and not have any medical background at all. I actually feel like there could be two great parts to this. A lot of nurses are very medically intuitive inclined. There's another book out by a doctor, and I forgot her name right now. I could almost see her image and her energy. It was really... she also is, I think, a medical professional that is a medical intuitive. And I think people like to hear that, right? Oh, you're a medical intuitive and you're a medical professional. There's something that feels maybe whole about it, like you have the scientific biology of all that school and work, and then you have this natural connection to the intuitive world. And I kind of like both ideas. I'm self-taught. I didn't grow up in any medical practices, or I did actually when I was 15 want to be a doctor, which is fascinating now that I reflect on it, right? Because I think I already knew things. I knew things for a long time. My mom was sick a lot. I was sick as a child a lot into adulthood, but my mom lived in the hospital. It became very normal for me that my mom was in the hospital. It's like, oh, she's in the hospital again. Okay, it was no worry, no fear. It's just how it was. And I remember just like knowing things about her body, even that she didn't, because her traumas were really big. And so for her to know and be instinctual with it was very challenging. And she became an experiment to Western medicine, and that was her choice. And it was very hard to watch. I'm not going to just minimize it, but it was very hard to be a part of, knowing things and just seeing somebody go into more trauma with that medical kind of community environment. It's almost like an addictive behavior in it. Like it's really from my mom was like, I need love and I need connection, I need healing, and it was never enough. Even 30 years later, multiple visits, it was never enough, and it's so deep. There's even, again, an emotional addictive pattern, and it's heartbreaking. It really is. And this is why maybe some people are very overwhelmed. Like, what is it that we need as human beings embodying this lifetime? Because it's more than just physiological medicine and medical care. And it becomes the majority because there's so many emotional wounds that are being held, so much emotion untapped, so much emotion not available to be expressed. And I've talked to multiple doctors throughout the years. I have a lot of doctors, internal medicine, kidney doctors, emergency room doctors, foot doctors, all kinds of doctors come to me for fertility and medical intuitive support and spirit baby communication. And we've agreed, we've talked about it at times, some I've worked with longer than others, is that the emotional energy is like there's no recognition. And I would even say now more is the consent of people's bodies, of doing things and having a conversation with touch and connection with people. And as well as trauma, being trauma trained. There's so much trauma. It's overwhelming. Everybody has trauma, whether it's foundational, whether it's before. But how are we addressing it? We're literally creating, our bodies are tense and stressed. And what happens when your body is tense and stressed? You're like suffocating. We're suffocating our organs, really. And it's not conscious. It's just stress is intense. Your electromagnetic field is listening to your world around you. And if you are more electromagnetic sensitive, you're depleted. You're deficient in your minerals, vitamins. Your nervous system may be high and typically dysregulated. And we can come into regulation. We can come into a lack of deficiency. But this is where I feel is like your own inner medical intuitive is a part of you. And I always dreamed about bringing that more to people. Like, what does that mean? And how do we really, sit inside our energy of our own self and really nourish it to our own expectation, or nourish it to our own biological, physiological, emotional, chemical connection, not the person that sits next to you. Their connection is different. And I do feel like getting embodied, it's a life journey and it's probably always changing, but I do feel like we can really sink in and deep in. Like, for example, I found out years ago, and I've been getting really better about it, is that I get very electrolyte deficient and I need salt. Remember back in the 80s, don't eat salt, it's so bad for you. But I noticed, if I'm going to do a 10-mile hike, which I haven't done any lately, I know that I need to have maybe double electrolytes because I feel crappy afterwards, and it's a bad feeling. But when I have those electrolytes, and I do cell salts, which is a homeopathic remedy, which I highly recommend for anybody that's active, and just to get your body, and it really feels good, and it's non-invasive, it has an energetic quality to it, is that I feel like, oh, I'm tired, but it's not a bad tired. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm ready to go, and I'm just going to rest, and it almost feels like it takes a layer away from maybe something that's more hypersensitive. And so knowing your deficiencies is really important, of course. And so medical intuitive, again, that's my broad term. I just kind of went off into another conversation. But medical intuitive, really psychic connection, psychic awareness, scanning people's body. We hear the word scanning. So looking at the scanning and connecting, and, a lot of people I know are trained as medical intuitives or learning self-taught medical intuitives, and they work in holistic wellness, which is really awesome. And I don't meet very many medical intuitives that really claim that name, because to claim that name, people get scared, like, oh, but it has the word medical. And again, it's just a term, medical intuitive. It's just a term that people understand. And so what I did in my own self-practice, I did an internship, I called it. I tried to get 100 people, children, babies, adults, and really testing my abilities. And I don't think I made it to 100, but in my mock, let me just do medical intuitive with everybody outside of conception. And what I realized was that was a very big project. And I got in the Nanami book, and I started studying it and listening. And so, because remembering I speak in the language of energy, and it's very easy for me to see and understand those parts. And so when I sit with someone, I go deeper, and I'm looking at the story. What is the story being held? And so you may be a medical intuitive and not even realize it, or you may be scared of it, or you're not sure. I always imagined someday that I would bring clairvoyant medicine, medical intuition to other people to train them to see what does that mean, because it's very tricky. Because I've read another book by another woman. I've read maybe two other medical, besides Carolyn Mace years ago, of course. I read her stuff 20 years ago. She's been around for a while. And then the Diaries of Medical Intuitive, I forgot the name of the author. There was another woman, Atwater. forgot her first name, and just reading her process, I was like, it's so beautiful, the work she's doing, but I just didn't get it. Like, that's the thing. It's like, how do you then put into words? Because she was talking about colors and different things. I was like, but I don't work that way. I don't use colors in my medical intuitive energy. I use telepathy and words, and I feel into it. So it's like, it's like, how do you then teach that, right? And I'm still trying to understand, like, the process that people have. And I would love to connect with other medical intuitives and see, what is their process? How do they connect? And how do they bring that information forward, and what does it look like? I can only speak from my own process and connection with people. And so there's so much to say. There's so much to tune into on being a medical intuitive, and just how things are perceived, and how you perceive, how I perceive. And I almost can look at it like, so there's the human body, right? The body has so much stuff, right? Endocrine system, there's the thyroid, the glands, reproduction, ovaries, uterus, brain chemistry, blood, bones, spine, heart, lungs, liver, so many different organs, and they're all just, responding to their environment. And the old stuff, not just the current environment of the present, but what about all the past stuff, all the old traumas that may have not worked their way out? And that's the thing. We can have trauma, and I spoke about that in the last episode, and that needs a lot more episodes, but the traumas that we hold can really be impactful if they're not properly, I feel like discharged is the word. If a trauma isn't properly discharged initially, then we're going to have a lot of troubles forward. Whether that's an injury, let's say you were running and you twisted your ankle, or let's say you were in an accident and there was an impact, and maybe it was a small thing and it didn't seem very big. We have to discharge the energy of that. If we do not discharge it, it becomes something more traumatizing. It becomes tension in the body. It becomes more emotional stuff and issues, and then you're just confused. You don't know why, because your brain doesn't understand it. And you're trying to figure it out and put it together. And I know this from a personal place, as many have connected with my own autoimmune disorder journey, and I'm going to talk about that in another episode. Like, how do we heal that, and why is it so rampant? What is going on with humanity, especially in America? What are we doing that it just feels like our bodies are literally inflamed on fire with so much tension? And it really sucks, to put it gently. I mean, it's so much more. I mean, it's really, when you're in chronic spaces of pain, especially, or other areas that your body, you just feel like, why isn't my body not in response with me? And even we can bring it into fertility. You're feeling maybe you have endometriosis, whether it's small or big. Maybe you have ovarian issues, PCOS. Maybe you have fibroids or cysts, and it's like, what the hell is happening? And like, maybe it's so frustrating, right? It's like, why do these things keep happening? What can I do? And of course, most people go to food and diet. And I'm going to say, great, bravo. But what do you do if you do all that good food and diet and nothing changes? And that's where I get frustrated, and that's where people come to me. And that's where I'm even frustrated by myself at times when I have things come up, and I realize the emotional frequency is so strong. If you have an emotion locked away in your body and it just doesn't know how to be expressed because it's not safe, it's dangerous, that's not the high brain thought process, but there's something deep in the mind, right, that says it is. You're in survival. You can't talk your way out of that. You can't massage your way out of that. You can't, eat paleo or vegan and then feel like everything's going to be fine. It doesn't work that way, and I wish it did, because that would be so easy. But we are so complex. We really are. We create our own complexities, and underneath those complexities and all those freaking stories, there's something clean. There's something whole. And I want you, even just for a moment, to imagine that. There's this light body of you, and you are a perfect system, really, a light system. And no joke, it's like, oh, we all come from light and love, but no, you are a light system. You are stem cells connected to that light system. And just like most people, we've been tricked, abused, or we've been so caught up in the culture suffering. But that light system is the allness of you. It is purity. It is love. And activating that, and what I mean by activating is like just shutting your brain off, to not go into the reptilian mind, to go into the suffering, the fear, and the annihilation, concept or process. And again, it can be a battle of the mind and the body at times. And so remembering, again, you are this perfect light system, and where are those light circuits? Are they flowing through the body's energy field? And where are the stuck areas? And we call those maybe even blocks, right? Or I call them obstacles. They're all bunched up in different parts of your body's existence and your connection to just your heart space, the connection to your emotional thought process, your mental body energy. And it's not about, yet again, I feel like I know with New Age isms, it's like, oh, you created your own sickness and you're a bad person. Well, actually, you're not a bad person. You're not, this human body experience is very challenging. But you are in creation with your body and your chemistry. And I'm not going to lie and say, oh, no, you're fine. But I feel like it's what you do with it. It's not intentional. I carry lineage of my past, and I carry, from the ancestors, and some things have created problems, but okay, whatever. I guess I'm here, right? What am I doing on Earth? Can I be responsible for my Earth experience and not live in victimization? Because I have lived in victimization when I was sick. When I got my initial diagnosis of lupus over 20 years ago, I felt like the victim, and it really sucked. But I needed to be the victim, and I needed to figure out who's going to take care of me, what does that look like? And I realized on that deep, long journey of healing was very many years that I can be free from an autoimmune issue to the extent of detriment of like dying, of going on IV drugs and being put in a bed in a clinic, that I could heal the deeper levels of it through the energetic system. And this is the future of medicine. Right now I'm doing a new photo technology, which I'm only like 2 months in, just about, and I think it's going to be a lifelong experience with this phototherapy, because I've been able to transform through really deep levels of chronic inflammatory pains in the joints, especially through a trauma I had years ago. And the emotion is being revealed more and more around that. And I was like, oh my gosh, the suffering I've been in relationship with really is it's not productive for me. It's I was moving into the point of pain, crying about myself. Like, why am I in this space? Why does this, and I had to go down into those deep areas of grief and then, see what wants to emerge, right? We want to be emotional beings, especially feminine. There's, the emotional, intuitive, music, creative. This is our world. We have these different assignments. And what are we doing with this assignment? What are we doing with this body? And then going deeper into that more multi-dimensional space of going, wow, look at this. I'm a telepath. I'm an astral traveler. I connect with other realities. I connect in ways I don't even have words for at times, right? And that is the power of your perfect system of light. You are tuned in. You are these different electromagnetic currents, and it's all working within the cells of your being. And you get to believe in the truth of that, or you get to pretend it doesn't even exist and go about your life. There's no right or wrong way to be embodied in your own light awareness and connection. Well, what I would say is I would definitely encourage those to explore these different things. And I do feel like that's part of my mission in this world, is to make you think about things and be curious with things and question things. Even when massive amounts of, culture or governments are saying, oh, do this or do that because I feel like it would be good for you. And even how all these different medical systems, money systems, it's like, well, why can't I question it? Why can't I say no? Why can't I sign myself out? Like, what is that? And we are supposed to be free in that space. We are supposed to have freedom to question those things and to say yes or no, because nobody owns our bodies and our own light connection, right? Some would say that God owns us, right? or that we are, we're from source, we're from the universal heart, and that doesn't have a price tag, right? It does not have a price tag. So your existence and your own light body is where your deeper levels of healing will always come from. I'm not going to say don't go get a surgery, don't go patch up something or sew something up, or, stabilize the bone. Like, those are very valuable, but in those physiological things, let's say you go and get fibroids removed or you go get an ovary taken out, there's energy of trauma afterwards that has to just let itself reroute and heal. And if you don't let that healing happen, that's where the issue comes. That's where the discharge becomes an issue on that journey. And maybe you're questioning, coming back to fertility, maybe you're even questioning, well, Kelly, they've diagnosed me with unknown infertility. And I remember years ago, I was like, oh, what do I do with this unknown infertility person? What does that even mean? There's so much attached to that label. And then it came to the realization over the years, I'm like, unknown infertility is not the worst diagnosis. I think it could be a really healing, expansive opportunity. And I really mean that. I see it in a very big way. And I'm like, that's workable. This energy is workable, and let's see, what does it even mean? And then you're healing whatever the parts that want to be healed. And I know some women go on a very long journey, going 5 years, sometimes 7, moving into conception, or still questioning, what am I doing? What does this next look like? And I do feel like if you are in that place of such deep struggle, you better run into the vibrational medicine community, like support. Not just Reiki, and I don't want to minimize Reiki, but Reiki is its own vibration, and so it may not meet the needs in the way it needs to for some people that are evolving through different forms of energy. Whether that's phototherapy, as I mentioned, whether it's integrative therapy, polarity therapy. I feel like there's so many. Years ago, I Googled, there's over like 1,000 different energy modalities. Where do you resonate with? Hands-on healing, more body-oriented, physical touch, connection, hands-on energy. And so matrix energy healing. So wherever you are, if you are really struggling deeply with fertility and you're like, oh, I don't even know what to do next or what this looks like, first of all, stop everything. And this is no medical advice. And my medical disclaimers, I'm a medical doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not telling you what to do. But in my intuitive opinion, I would say stop everything and reboot yourself. Really sit down. Where are you? Clear everything out. Where is your heart? Who are you? Where do you exist? Go out into nature. Nature. Let nature take care of you. Let nature love you. Let nature hold you. Come back to whatever that intuitive plan is that holds ahead of you. Have to put energy modality in there, and not just acupuncture. I know people love acupuncture, and I do too. But there's the next level after that. What is your next level? I've seen women, I actually worked with a woman who went 10 years and then conceived 2 children with me. And it was a struggle, but she knew. And she went into a specific energetic modality, did it every single day. And I worked with her a few times a week. And you don't have to work with me a few times a week. You could if there's space to. But there's something about being held by someone else, and I absolutely love that because we need each other. And that's why I created even the membership monthly collective. It's like we need each other to just feel and fuel the energy. Alone, you are a powerful light energy, but this world is hard, and that electromagnetic currents will bring you down. And that's the part, maybe there's the struggle even in that your fertility journey isn't wasteful. You aren't broken. And there's so much more happening. And so, again, in that fertility world, the struggle, go get an energy modality. Connect with your inner medical intuitive, I would say. And ask yourself, what does your body need next? And then what does your heart need next? And then what does your mind need next? And then maybe ask, and what does your baby need next? I'm not going deep into the baby stuff at this point, but from a medical intuitive kind of perspective, of course, there's another soul, there's another connection, and they have their own body of consciousness and energy, and you get to be of service, remember, into receiving. And so I kind of wanted to share some of these quotes. I love this. So here's the book. Here's the book you want. Intuition, A Science of the Soul. Your Awakening to Wholeness by C. Norman Sheely, MD, PhD, defines, here's how he defines medical intuition. I probably should have said this earlier. This is how I go with my notes. I get so caught up in an energetic space, and then I just go with it. So, medical intuition. A medical intuitive is not a street psychic or carnival barker who can see the future. Medical intuitive is exactly that. A person who has the ability to interpret energetic data, often includes behavioral patterns, archetypal patterns that govern the soul's path, life traumas, and then there's this presence of physical illness, as well as the illnesses that are in the process of developing. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that one. Oh, people don't like that. Sometimes I do see illness in people's body that hasn't physically manifested yet. But I feel like when I get that energy, it means you need to do something about it now so that it changes. Don't be scared by that, though. Historical clairvoyance, future clairvoyance, it's all a big family of energy. And I'm also going to share. So, 15 years ago, I graduated clinical psychology, MFT eligibility, which I dropped in the internship time. Felt the limitations in that space and really wanted to move into the energy psychology work. It was kind of still in its new space at that point. Now it's like, okay, energy psychologist, woohoo. And so I wrote my master thesis in this, and I learned somatic psychology, so I became, trained in that with psychology. And of course I learned, I went into, it's just phenomenal when you look at your history timelines. I went into attachment parenting. I don't even know how it came to me, but I knew I did not want to work with schizophrenics or bipolar or do a lot of that work. So I ended up working attachment parenting with babies and parents, and then even in family therapy with mothers and child. It's fascinating, really, to look at my whole story, which I'm writing the book, so we get to look at that a little bit more. And so my master thesis was, I don't remember the title now, but I did this experiment on just learning about energy awareness with people. What does that look like? And so I have this quote here from the thesis, but from somebody else's quote about what is energy medicine. I feel like that's a good one. Energy medicine is the art of healing by using the subtle energy body. It works in conjunction with other therapies such as somatic psychology, which can involve sensing the subtle energy body, using breath and movement with talk therapy. Energy medicine is a term used to describe both healing, bioenergetic therapies, diagnostic screening devices used to measure the electromagnetic frequencies emitted by the body in order to detect imbalances that may be causing present illness or contributing to future disease. And that's by Trevor and Anderson, 2002. And here's more, my next part of this. Energy medicine, also known as informative medicine, works with disturbed energy flow and helps return the body to a normal, healthy state. Through application of bioenergetic techniques or the input of electromagnetic signals that restore a normal energy balance within the body's many experiences of the system. And that's by Trevor Anderson as well. And so I leave you with so much around your own self-awareness, your healing journey. There's so much more, I feel like there's so much to talk about medical intuitive practices, insights, healing, and there's so many stories that I have. And I do have I have a medical intuitive section on my website that has a little bit about my story and even some testimonials that people have shared just through the experience of connecting with the energetic. And I think people get really surprised when I pinpoint their issues that I don't know about, whether it's a heart issue or a lung issue or a digestion issue, and it's fascinating to compare it with the naturopath and the doctor. And I know in the medical intuitive book, Dr. Norm Sheely says that when they took a study, they took doctors, physicians, and they and they compared them with medical intuitives, and they said their accuracy was almost about the same. The only difference was the physician had to study years with books and look at things, where the medical intuitive just had the information instantly. And so I leave you with that. Wherever you are in this conception journey, Remember your inner medical intuitive is there and it's strong. Remember your light body is everything in communication with your world. And remember that spirit baby being is in connection with you. And that what supports you next, you will know. You will open to, you will receive it, you will allow it. And so, much healing on your journey. And I want to thank you for joining episode 150. Love that. Medical intuitive practices and getting answers and insights into healing your fertility. And if you like my podcast, please leave a review and subscribe. And don't forget, I do have a journal, Soul to Soul Communication, or it's called Sacred Communication, a Spirit Baby journal, and Spirit Baby Oracle cards, Soul Answers from Spirit Baby. And you can get these beautiful intuitive spiritual tools at my website and learn more about private sessions, VIPs, and online support.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.